was really interested in was making a piece of work that wasn't permanent, because this is a permanent public artwork, so obviously it's going to be there for, you know, as long as it is, but I didn't want to make a monument. I wanted to make something that was quite big but that wasn't really fixed. And so the model yachting pond was brilliant for that, because it's already got this kind of movement thing that's going on. But also, you know, because it's got the water in, because it's tidal, because the water's going up and down, because it's always kind of in flux, because, you know, sometimes the tide's yards and yards and yards out, sometimes the tide's right up to it. I think that idea of a site that's always changing is really quite exciting. I tend to make installations or works that respond to an architecture. So if they're inside, I've never made anything outside before, but everything inside is always kind of responding to the architecture of a gallery. So it maybe feels like it's moving through a gallery, and it's more about your experience of it, kind of in that moment when you're in there, than something that you can look at and kind of, you know, and walk round, and then you've pretty much got it. I'm really interested in the idea of making objects and installations that are slightly different for every individual that kind of encounters them. So the actual work is a series of structures made from aluminium, painted aluminium, that are these kind of varying sizes of rings that I suppose I wanted to feel like they were kind of almost like emerging from the pond and floating on the pond, and that there could potentially be this enormous structure underneath that you can't see, and it's just kind of a tip of it. So they, and in them they have glass discs which have dichroic film in, which is a kind of film that changes colour depending on where the light's hitting it. So it goes, depending on where the light is and where you're standing, it goes from a yellow through to a blue, but it also goes from being mirrored to being transparent. And it reflects a different colour from underneath itself than it has on its top surface. So I really like it. I mean, it's just this material that is always moving, so it's never the same, it's always kind of shifting and in this state of flux. And I kind of wanted to make a piece that I was brought up in Morecambe, which is a seaside town in the northwest of England, or near Morecambe in Lancaster. And I did my foundation, which was part of my art education, for a year. I lived for a year in Blackpool. I was thinking about that idea that a seaside town is a kind of place that performs, so it's a place that kind of turns itself on at certain times of year for its visitors, and so it's this kind of, you know, they're very different places out of season than they are in season, and they have this kind of performative act that happens where suddenly the lights go on and all the things that close in the winter open up and it just transforms itself. So in terms of process, first of all I made a series of models just to kind of get a feel for how things would sit in the pond, really, I suppose, and just to try and think of, you know, what was possible, really. And so I kind of started to narrow down how I thought the structures would work and how I thought the rings would work, and then made a drawing, and then worked with Richard Cresswell, who worked with me to make it, and also a marine engineer, acted as kind of consultant on the project. I mean, a lot of it's been about working out systems because I wanted to make it in quite an intuitive way, is then working out all these systems that then mean that someone else can actually work out where legs have to go, things like that. So it's been kind of, it's been quite interesting, but yeah, between us, there's been lots of little technical challenges, but between us we've kind of worked it out by doing it, which I think is quite nice to know that you can do on a project that is like this, that you don't have to suddenly go and become an AutoCAD expert or, you know, work out how to design it and be really hands-off, that actually it is possible to still feel like you're making something.